And we're back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rollsicle. I, of course, am Nathaniel, one of your hosts here on the channel, and we are continuing the Magic the Gathering Foundation set review. We have made it to the red cards. Before we jump into things here, I just want to give you guys a disclaimer of just the channel and whatnot. If you guys haven't subscribed, liked, commented, anything like that before, just know that because we are such a small channel, it really does mean the world to us, and it changes our entire day, week, month, etc., and helps make sure that we keep doing what we love with this channel. That being said, let's jump into this video. So if you guys haven't seen any of the other ones, I suggest you go watch White, Blue, and Black, but you don't have to if you're only interested in the red cards. That being said, they are great examples of what we're going to do. We're going to go through every single one of the cards that are available of this color in the limited set on Magic the Gathering Foundations, essentially, right? Because there are other Foundation products that aren't limited, and we're going to be reviewing them from 1 to 10. Basically, they're going to get a scale 1 to 10 score, and yeah, 10s are your massive bombs, 1s are completely unplayable, never put it in a deck, and it is, once more, going to be from a limited perspective. Some of these cards are better in like Commander or other constructed formats, but we are looking at limited today. Let's jump into it with Battle Song Berserker. Now, this is actually a card I haven't seen played too many times, but when I do, it does pretty good work. Whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains menace. That's just anytime you attack. And of course, it's a 4-drop. So that ability can trigger the turn it comes out. It's a 3/4 for 4 that can always attack as a 4/4 for 4 with menace, really. But it can also give your other things menace, like a flyer or something else that, you know, can get a trigger off of hitting an opponent, something like that. So completely playable card. In fact, I'd say even just above the rest, my playable category is really the 3 to 4 out of 10. I'm going to give it the 4 out of 10. I don't think it jumps into that 5 out of 10 range, but I do think it's a 3 out of 4. Next, we have Bolt Wave, a single red mana. Bolt Wave deals 3 damage to each opponent. Now, in limited, that's only ever going to be one opponent, so this is 3 damage, 1 mana, 3 damage to your opponent. I think completely unplayable outside of the spells deck, and even then, you kind of want anything else other than this. I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10. Don't play Bolt Wave. Next, we have Bulk Up, instant speed, 1 in a red, double target creature's power until end of turn. You can flash it back for 6. That's disgusting. But it is an okay combat trick. I don't think that gets the unplayableness of a 1 out of 10. But I just don't know if it's doing too much. I mean, if you don't have like First Strike or something like that, you're still going to be losing the creature, and you're basically going to 2-for-1 yourself, and because it doesn't buff any toughness. It can win you the game if you do get through and you have a big creature, you can double it. So I'm being nice when I give it a 3 out of 10. But it really deserves a 2.5. Moving on. Next, we have Chandra, the Flame Shaper. Although it doesn't have the in it. It's Chandra, Flame Shaper. 7 mana. This is just a broken Planeswalker. I mean, broken Planeswalker. Add 3 red, and on +2, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Choose one. You may play that card this turn. So it gives you sort of card draw. I forget what they call that in red when you're like exiling cards and you can play them that turn. There's a phrase for it in Magic and I can't remember the name of it, but it gives you that, which is sort of card draw. And then that's a +2 ability. Then you have +1, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it gets haste and then you sack it at the end of your turn. Or those are both the plus abilities. Then you have the minus ability, which is deal 8 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures or planeswalkers. So it's a one-sided board wipe. Oh my god, broken card, 7 mana win the game basically. And yeah, I've seen games go from just you're completely winning to you're dead in a matter of seconds when Chandra hits the battlefield. And if you are already winning, it's just gonna finish off the opponent. It's just going to finish off the opponent. Absolute definition of a bomb, 10 out of 10. Next, we have Courageous Goblin. That is a 2-drop 2/2. Also, if I block any of the cards here, I really do apologize for that. I continue to figure out the camera shenanigans. We don't actually own a green screen, so we're using green screen app stuff that sort of works, but it also made like my shirt like go through to the background, and it was weird. So we're trying to figure it out. All right, Courageous Goblin is a 2/2 that says whenever you attack with a creature power 4 or greater, which is the sub-theme of green-red, this creature gets +1/+0 and gains menace. So it's a 2/2 that can be a 3/2 with menace. Totally playable, perfectly fine payoff. It is a goblin, and that does sometimes matter. Krenko. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. I don't think he's as good as the 4 out of 10 playables. All right, next we have Crackling Cyclops. This is a 3-drop 0/4 that can get +3/+0 every time you cast a non-creature spell. Yeah, this just isn't that playable. It can work in the Spellslinger deck, and if you are in that deck, you might want to put some of these in there, but that's the only time I'm ever going to see this get played, and even then, it's not great. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. It's not completely unplayable, but 2 out of 10 is pretty bad. Next, we have a Dragon Trainer. This is 5 mana 1/1, but when it enters, you create a 4/4 red dragon token with flying. Pretty good, but you do got to remember that those tokens can get bounced, and that basically is a complete removal spell for tokens, so you got to keep that in mind. But it is 2 bodies. This is really good for sack fodder, again, if you're in a black deck that wants sacking to happen. So totally playable in that sense. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Next, we have Electro Duplicate. For 3 mana, you can create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except you give it haste, and then at the beginning of your end step, you have to sacrifice it, and then it has flashback for 4. I just don't think this is that good. There's not a lot of creatures, especially non-legendary creatures, that I really want to make a copy of and give it haste for Electro Duplicate. Now, maybe if I happen to have a really big bomb in red or green or whatever color I guess I'm in, because red can be paired with any color, maybe I want to duplicate it. I mean, there are some that I would love to duplicate, but more often than not, you're going to be spending 3 mana to duplicate like a 3/3 on the battlefield that might not even have an effect or an ability, and that's just not worth it. So realistically, I don't think this is completely unplayable, but I think it's going to hit about the 3 out of 10 spot, and that's not great. So that's why I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. Next, we have Fiery Annihilation. Fiery Annihilation deals 5 damage to target creature. Exile up to 1 target equipment attached to that creature, which isn't going to happen very often, but when it does, it's a really nice 2-for-1. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. This is great removal. 3 mana, deal 5 is probably going to take care of most things. If they happen to be equipped, great. And it's going to exile that creature to stop any crazy graveyard shenanigans. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 on the removal here. Pretty good stuff. Next, we have Goblin Borders. This is a 3/2 for 3 with Raid, and the Raid basically just says if you've attacked this turn, enter the +1/+1 counter on it, so it's really a 4/3. So sure, it's a 3/2 with the potential of a 4/3 for 3 mana. Doable. It is a goblin, and that does matter. Krenko. But I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's broken. I'm going to give it the 3 out of 10 spot. Next, we have Goblin Negotiation. Now, this card has the potential to pop off with a couple cards. Looking at you, Twin Flame Tyrant. But I don't think it's very good on its own. It's X and 2 red, and it deals X damage to any target creature, and then you create a number of 1/1 goblins equal to the excess damage. So if you need to remove something with 4 toughness, this is a 6-cost removal spell, and you get no goblins out of it. If you want goblins out of it, you have to pay even more than that. Yeah, it's just not that great. It's really, really just not that great. I don't think it's that playable. If you happen to be running Krenko, then sure, maybe you want the goblins, but I just don't think it's that great of a card. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10 because it does do something. You can play it, but it doesn't do a whole lot. Next, we have a Gorehorn Raider. This is a 4/4 Minotaur Pirate for 5 with Raid that says when it enters, if you've attacked this turn, it deals 2 damage to any target. Now, that's pretty good. You can finish someone off that way, but you're probably not going to. Or you could take out a lot of creatures. There's a lot of creatures in this format with 1 or 2 toughness, and this is one of the ways to kill them. Very powerful card, very good card. I'm going to give it the 4 out of 10. Totally playable, but doesn't really stand out. Next, we have Incinerating Blast. Incinerating Blast deals 6 damage to target creature, and then you may discard a card. If you do, you draw a card. For 5. Now, this is not quite looting because you're doing the discarding before you draw. I think that has its own name, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. But I do think it's still pretty good. It's a nice little add-on effect. And it deals 6 damage to target creature, so it's decent removal. I think this is a pretty playable card. I don't think it's quite as good as Fiery Annihilation, so it's going to land the 4 out of 10 slot, but it is good removal if you're in red. Next, we have Kellen Planar Trailblazer. This is a 2/1 for 1. Pretty good card. And then it has the sort of activated upgrade this card thing that they've done before. So you can pay 2, and he becomes he's already a scout, so he becomes a human fairy detective, and he gains whenever he deals combat damage to a player. You exile the top card of the library. You may play that card this turn. And it's your library, not theirs. And then 3 mana, he becomes a 3/2 human fairy rogue and gains double strike, which is really good. And honestly, if you pull him in your hand, he is your 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop if you really want, and that's pretty powerful. So all things considered, this is a great start to a game if you have a Kellen and you have him in your hand and you can play him on turn 1. You already have the mountain that you're going to need for the other 2, so you just need the mana. Yeah, this is a great card. I think it does wonders. Now, is it crazy broken? No, but it's a 1-drop, so it's not supposed to be. I think because of that, it still is going to score a 7 out of 10 for me. It's a very powerful 1-drop, and I do like that. All right, next we have Rite of the Dragon Caller. It is a 6-cost enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. Now, it does nothing on its own. And you guys know me, I'm not a big fan of that. So it's going to not get the 9 or 10 category, basically, because it doesn't do anything on its own. That being said, if you are in a heavy instant and sorcery deck, this thing can pop off. I mean, if you just play 2 instants and sorceries after you play this in the next turn, yeah, you already have 10/10 flying power and toughness. And then on top of that, you're going to be making more unless they can remove your enchantment. So very, very powerful card. But because it does nothing the turn it comes out, you got to be careful when you're playing this. You're going to be spending 6 mana to do a whole lot of nothing unless you cast it when you have 7 mana and you can hit one of the 1-drop instants. And now you've played the card a lot more properly. Still very, very powerful. Going to give it an 8 out of 10. You guys know me. It's time for a little bit of agua, because these videos require quite a bit of talking. All right, next we have Seer Slicer Goblin. I'm surprised I got that out. Of course, it's a Goblin. It's 2/1 for 2, so meh. And at the beginning of your end step, if you have attacked this turn, create a 1/1 red Goblin creature token. Now, that's pretty good in the sense that you don't ever swing this guy, right? You swing the creature tokens, or you swing your flyer that can't be blocked, or you swing whatever it is, and then you're just getting a 1/1 red goblin creature token every turn that can chump block, it can contribute to Krinko, it can get buffed up, all sorts of stuff. It can be sacrificed, so this is a really good card. Again, it might not sound like it breaks the game. It's not supposed to. It's a 2-drop. Because of that, it's also going to get the 7 out of 10 category. Very, very playable, significantly better than most of the commons, uncommons in the set. You're going to want to play this card. Next, we have Slumbering Cerberus. This is a 4/2 for 2, but it doesn't untap during your untap step. It untaps at an end step, where at the beginning of each end step, where a creature has died that turn. So it is playable, but you really got to play into the morbid ability for it to untap. I find that a lot of the times it doesn't untap when I want it to, but when it does, the 4 power is really powerful on turn 2, especially if you can get it going once or twice. You've done 8 damage by like turn 3, maybe turn 4, so it is doable. It's not great, but I think it does enough to land in the 4 out of 10 category. Totally playable card, but it's not going to stand out. All right, now I have almost never played Sower of Chaos. In fact, I don't think I have played it. I've almost never even seen it. It's a 4-drop devil 4/3 that you can pay 3 for target creature to not be blocked this turn, which like is something to do later on in the game if you happen to hit like that stalemate, and it's a playable 4-drop, but I just don't know if it's crazy powerful. If you happen to have triggers for getting a creature through, for hitting a player, for opponents taking damage, those sorts of things, it does a little bit more in that deck, but a 4/3 for 4 is also not great unless it has a good ability, and I don't know if the ability is really selling me on this one, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It is playable, but I think I would take some other stuff over it. All right, next we have Strongbox Raider. This is a 4-drop 5/2, so wackadoodle on the power and toughness there. But it does have Raid whenever it enters. If you attack this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. So again, that fake card draw, I know it has a name for it, but I can't. It's not coming to me right now. It's like Healer's Hawk in the last video. If you guys checked out the black card review video, I couldn't remember the name of Healer's Hawk. But yeah. Well, any Hoosers, this is a pretty decent card. It is going to give you that fake card draw, whatever it's called. And yeah, I mean, you guys know me. I love card draw, so anything even close, remotely close to card draw is still pretty powerful. The 5/2 is a prime example of what I mean by it. There's a lot of things in this format with 1 or 2 toughness, they can be taken out really easily, and that's a bit of a detriment to this card. So it's just going to land in that 4 out of 10 category, completely playable, but it's not going to change your game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we found it. I stand corrected. I think this might be the most expensive card, or at least new card, as opposed to Bloodthirsty Conqueror. That's the name of it in the black video, which is exquisite blood on a creature. If you know, you know. If you don't, go check out the video. I'd love to have you watch it. However, Twin Flame Tyrant is so broken. Flying Dragon 3/5. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage instead. That's right, just double the damage of everything that does damage to any of your opponents. Yeah, it's broken in Commander too. Or any permanent your opponents control. Planeswalkers, creatures, etc. Yeah, it's about as broken as it sounds. Sure, it's a 3/5 flyer for 5, so it's a little below the curve there, but that effect is so broken. You play this every single time. It doesn't guarantee win you the game, but it kind of does, because, like I said, it's not even hitting for 3 damage. It's hitting for 6 because of its own ability. You got to give it a 10 out of 10. You have to. I don't know if it's, there's almost categories to the 10 out of 10, because some broken cards deserve to be just so far beyond. I don't know if this is in that category, but yeah, 10 out of 10 bomb. Play it. Play it, always. But don't splash it, because it is too red. Next, we have Braid. 1 in a red, to choose 1. It either deals 3 damage to target creature, or you can destroy target artifact. Now, there's not a lot of crazy artifacts in this set, but you don't want to be burned by one, and it's not a bad idea to have some removal for them in your limited deck. And this is a great way to do that, because it's also going to be creature removal. So if you've got a creature you need to take out, bam, a Braid. But if you do run into a pesky artifact, get that out of here. Pretty great card. I'm going to give a Braid a 4 out of 10. Totally playable. Does not stand out too much. There's going to be a lot of 4 out of 10s. Next, we have Axguard Cavalry. Now, this card's pretty good, right? 2/2 for 2 that you can tap to give target creature haste. I have seen this get played a little bit more, because sometimes you have creatures that you just want to be able to swing out the turn that they come in. And realistically, it can kind of serve as a 2/2 that just always gives whatever is bigger than it haste if you happen to be playing a more aggressive deck, or if you have a lot of big things in your deck. All of those sorts of things. I think it's totally playable. It falls into the exact same category. 4 out of 10. Brass's Bounty. 7 drop for each land you control. Create a treasure token. If you already have 7 mana to cast this, you probably don't need the treasure tokens. I don't think this is playable at all. At all, honestly, in limited. Don't play this card. Brass's Bounty isn't going to do anything for you. 1 out of 10. Next, we have Brazen Scourge. This is a 1 and a 2 red for a 3/3 with haste. Gremlin, not a goblin, Gremlin. I just don't know if this is great. I mean, a 3/3 with haste is playable. That's not bad. But the 2 red makes this a little difficult, because you're probably running at least 2 colors in limited, and you're not guaranteed to have 2 sources of red by turn 3. And if you're playing this later than turn 3, it's lost a lot of what a 3/3 with haste can really do for you. So because of that, I really end up not playing this card very much, and I'm going to throw it at the 3 out of 10 category. All right, we have our boy. There he is. What a page of cards, honestly. For those of you that don't know, my other host, Ashley, is the one that makes all of these slides for me right now, because I'm actually able to record, and she's home for the holiday right now. So because of that, she still wants to do what she can for the channel. Shout out to Ashley. Any of you guys that see this far into the video, give her some love down in the comments below, because Rosicle wouldn't be possible without her. But wow, I haven't actually flipped through this slide yet, and what a slide. What a slide. I mean, she didn't pick the order of these, because they're just in the order for the numbers at the bottom left, but crazy. Let's get into them, though. Burst Lightning. All right, so this is a 1 red that does 2 damage to any target, or you can kicker it for 4 more, so 5 mana, to do 4 damage to any target. Now, you don't usually want to pay 5 mana for 4 damage, but if you need it, it is nice that you can do that. And the 1 mana do 2 damage to any target is very, very great. Most of the time, if you start with this, you're going to be able to kill your opponent's 1 or 2 drop and sort of level the playing field. If they plan to go aggro, if they plan to overwhelm, if they plan to ramp with that mana dork, because Llanowar Elves is in this format, we just haven't gotten to green yet, you can take care of it. Great card. I'm going to give it a I'm going to give it a 5 out of... I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, honestly. Play this card. It's great. All right, next we have Drakuseth, Maw of Flames. And it's only getting a 6 out of 10 because of how cheap it is. All right, so this is obviously playable only in a very hardcore red deck because you need that triple red. But 3 red and 4 for a total of 7 gives you a 7/7 flyer. Holy crap. And yeah, if it gets to your turn, it then says, if it gets to your turn with Drakuseth, win the game. Not really, but it does say that when you attack with him, you get to do 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. So it's probably a one-sided board wipe, or at least close to it, or you're at least picking one of those 3 to smack the opponent with. If they can't block in the air, you're hitting for 7 on top of that. Oh my god, does this card win games. It's a crazy, crazy good top end. You play this card, man, it wins you games. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. It's hard to beat it. Again, this is sort of why I said we kind of need different categories for the 10 out of 10s, but crazy, crazy, crazy good card. Okay, so for 1 less mana, we can play an Atali, which is a 6 mana, 6/6 Elder Dinosaur. It says when it attacks, so once more, you don't do anything until it attacks, but once it attacks, you get to exile the top card of each player's library, then you may cast any number of spells from among those without paying their mana cost. So it kind of gives you some free card draw and then some free playing of the spells that you draw from that, and you're pulling from your opponent's deck as well. So you have 2 chances to hit something here, but if you hit a land, it's not doing much. Now, personally, I like the evasion and the guaranteed I'm doing something when I attack of Drakuseth more, which is going to bump Atali down, but Atali is still great value. A 6/6 for 6 is already a good card. It's not great, but it's already a good card, and then if you can attack with it, you have immediately gotten yourself some value. I am going to give it an 8 out of 10. I love Atali Primal Storm. It's a great card. All right, next we have Fanatical Firebrand. This is a 1-drop Goblin Pirate. It kind of looks like a monkey, but it's a Goblin Pirate with haste. So 1/1 with haste that you can sack it, well, tap sack it, and then it deals 1 damage to any target. So you can kind of bring this out, get a little bit of damage in, and then sack it to take something else out. Like, oh wait, the next card we're going to look at has 1 toughness. But I don't think it's crazy good. It's playable in the sack deck because then you can just use it for sack fodder and also just kind of ramp out a little bit. Well, not ramp out, but aggro out a little bit at the start of the game, but I don't think it's crazy good. I don't see this one get played too often. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. Next, we have a Firebrand Archer. This is a 2/1 for 2 that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Yeah, you play this in the Spellslinger deck, but if you're not in the Spellslinger deck, it's a 2/1 for 2 that's just not that good. It doesn't have a crazy good ability unless you're in a Spellslinger deck, and I just don't think it's that playable. Again, 3 out of 10. Next, we have Fire Spitter Whelp. This is a 2/2 for 3 with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature or dragon spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. So it does what the last card did, right? But it also triggers on a dragon, and it's a 2/2, and it has flying, but it costs 1 more mana. I do think that makes it better than Firebrand Archer, but I don't think that it makes it broken, right? Because it's still not that crazy. It's a 2/2 flyer that might trigger if you're in the Spellslinger deck. So it's gonna bump up to, what did I give Firebrand Archer? Oh goodness, hopefully I gave that 3 out of 10. So I'm gonna bump this up to 4 out of 10. But I've seen some people go wild over this card. It's not that good. 4 out of 10. Next we have a Flame Wake Phoenix. Flying and haste, 3-drop, 2/2 when it attacks. Oh, it has to attack each combat if able. I haven't seen this card very much. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may pay red. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And it has haste, so you can just start swinging with it every turn. Now, if it's constantly swinging into something bigger than it, that doesn't do a whole lot for you, but it is also really, really nice sack fodder. It can kind of reassembling skeleton itself. So I do think this card has a lot of places that it can be worth it. Now, you do have to attack with it each combat if able, so it's not going to do a lot of blocking, and understandably so, because if you could block with this, it would be extremely powerful. But I still think it's pretty decent. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, I think. 7 out of 10. Pretty powerful. Again, most rares are going to get higher than these commons and uncommons because they are just better, but but not all of them are. And even then, if it's a 7 out of 10, we've seen a couple commons and uncommons hit right up against that. You know, if you have a 6 out of 10 that's on Synergy or a 7 out of 10 that's not, take the 6 out of 10. Oh, goodness. All right, Frenzied Goblin, after I get a little bit more water in my system. Hopefully that wasn't too loud for you guys. Frenzied Goblin, 1/1 for 1. Whenever this creature attacks, you may pay 1. If you do, target creature can't block this turn. It is playable. It is an okay 1-drop, but it doesn't do anything crazy. 3 out of 10. Goblin Surprise, a 3-mana choose 1. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, so a small overrun effect. Or just create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Now this is at instant speed, so that top ability is frequently going to potentially win you games in red-white aggro or something like that. You got 5 creatures attacking, and suddenly, yeah, you're doing 10 more damage than the opponent thought you were going to do. And you're probably winning if they didn't block at all. And creating the goblins can be pretty good too. It can save you in some situations. It can help you survive long enough to stabilize. It's not going to do the stabilization yourself, but it can help get you there. I think it's a totally playable card. 4 out of 10. All right, next we have Heartfire Immolator. I think this is a pretty good card. 2-drop, 2/2 with Prowess. That's nice. Prowess is pretty good. Red, single red, sack it, and it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. Now that is a removal spell, and it can get higher than 2 power, so it can be a pretty good removal spell. I think this is totally playable. I think it's actually a really good card, and it, of course, does significantly better if you have a good number of instants and sorceries, or just non-creature spells, I guess, to trigger the prowess abilities there. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Very, very playable. All right, Hidetsugu's? I don't know. Second right. You never play this card. 1 out of 10. Moving on. Read it. Moving on. Involuntary Employment. For those of you that don't know, Hidetsugu does 10 damage to someone that has exactly 10 life. Don't ever play that card. Involuntary Employment is a 4-mana. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste. So yeah, it's... What is it? Act of treason. Act of treason. But I think it costs 1 more, but you get a treasure token out of it. So, it's playable, but I don't think it's great. I'm going to give it 4 out of 10. There's nothing that brings it down to 3. So, there he is. The man, the myth, the legend. Krenko Mob Boss. 4 mana, 3/3. You can tap him to create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. So your goblins go from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64. You guys get the gist. Wow, is it such a powerful card. I mean, this card goes absolutely crazy if it doesn't get removed. It's not a mythic, but for a rare, boy howdy does this card go hard. Now, it doesn't do a whole lot the turn it comes out because it doesn't have haste. It's just a 4-mana 3/3 the turn it comes out, and you're not using it to attack or block because you don't want to lose his ability to tap and create a bunch of goblins. So, realistically, he's not a 10 out of 10, but he is a very, very powerful card, and he has the potential to seriously pop off. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. I think I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. But you do have to build around him. If you don't have goblins to trigger this guy, it takes a long time for him to get going because you go 1 to 2. Well, you go 1, and then you go to 2, and then you go to 4, and then you go to 8. And by the time you're at 8, you've really made a board presence that's hard for the opponents to come back from. But that took 4 turns, so you really want to have some goblins to help. But yeah, I'm going to give him a... I'm going to bump him down to an 8. He doesn't do enough on the turn he comes out, and he's not a big enough body himself. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. All right, Seismic Rupture. Seismic Rupture deals 2 damage to each creature without flying for 3. More often than not, this is going to kill your own deck. If you play it in a deck that has all flyers, then sure, it's really, really good. But that's white-blue in this format, and this is a red card. No, no. No, don't play this card. I've seen it do okay, and I hate that it did in a few situations. Please don't play this card. 1 out of 10, unplayable. Don't play Seismic Rupture. Moving on, Shivan Dragon, 6 mana, 5/5 flying. You guys know, this is a classic. They give this card away for free. In fact, it used to be a rare, now it's an uncommon. 5/5 flyer for 6, and you can buff it up with a red. Yeah, I mean, totally playable. It doesn't stand out as a 5/5 for 6 flyer, but it's totally playable. 4 out of 10. It didn't eke into 5 for me. All right, Slag Storm, 3 mana, deals 3 damage to each creature or deals 3 damage to each player. I think is a little bit more playable than, say, like the non-flyers one, because you can really burn yourself with the non-flyers one, but it's still not great. It is a board wipe. It is a way to kill them if they happen to have less than 3 life and you don't have less than 3 life. Or if you think you're about to die, it is a way to draw the game. But realistically, it's not great. This is an example of a rare that I'm only going to give a 4 out of 10. Next, we have a Spitfire Lagak, I think is how you say that, but I don't know for sure. 4 mana for a 3/4, but it does have a landfall that says whenever the land enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Now, you got to imagine, this is 4 mana, so in most average games, even if you're playing this on turn 4, he's going to trigger 3 or 4 times, and that's not that broken, especially because that means you're not attacking with him, or if you are, he's not dying, so it's not great. It's playable, but it's not great. 3 out of 10. All right, next we have a Sure Strike. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. I love this combat trick. I think it's an entirely, totally playable combat trick. I love giving my creature first strike because almost guaranteed. I mean, +3 to power and first strike almost guarantees you're keeping your creature, you're killing theirs, so you're not 2 for 1ing yourself here. I love this card. I think it's really, really good, but it doesn't really stand out. So 4 out of 10. All right, and then we have our very last one here is Thrill of Possibility. You pay 2, and you discard a card to draw 2 cards. But you know what? That's still the only card draw we really saw. We didn't see a lot of card draw. We saw a lot of fake card draw, and those are still really good cards. But this is just true card draw as long as you discard the card as the cost. Now, you want to keep that in mind, because if you have one of these in your deck, and you're playing lands and you're doing all that stuff and you don't leave a card in your hand, and when you draw this, you're not going to be able to cast it. And that can be a very serious issue. So remember that Thrill of Possibility requires a card. But it's perfectly playable card draw. Nothing that stands out like crazy. 4 out of 10. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are all of the cards in red. Bam. There we have it. Magic the Gathering Foundation set review. If you guys enjoyed it, let me know down in the comments below. Please send me some comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We really, really, really appreciate it. We've been trying to, I've been recording these as much as I can so that we can get them ready so that they can come out every single day. So hopefully you guys have seen 4 of these now, back to back to back to back, on top of the Assassin's Creed content. If you're loving what you're seeing, please leave some support down below, because it does take some time. It takes a lot of effort from us, and it really, really helps when we see that effort paying off. We love making these videos for you guys. We wouldn't be here without you. We wouldn't be here without you guys, and you mean the world to us. Thank you so much for being so great. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, may the rolls be ever in your favor. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.